Yeah, how should candidates select the best schools to apply to? I'm glad then you put that in inverted commas. What should they be looking for?
Well, I think there's a few sort of shorthands that help. I mean, if they're a member of HMC or IOPS or COBIS or Fabicia, those sorts of organisations have a degree of quality assurance around them, and certainly, if it's an HMC IOPS school, it's they're quite rare around the world, and there's a very high degree of accreditation to get that type mark. Inspection reports can give a really good sort of feel for things in terms of where they are, in terms of their maturity as a school. I mean, if they haven't got a BSO inspection report, then that would probably be a bit of a worry. And then I think you can get a feel for, I mean, if you're researching going abroad or changing country, good schools will have areas dedicated on their websites to teacher recruitment, which will probably have case studies in and so on. And one of my top tips is sometimes you can end up living a long way from where you think you are. I mean, a lot of these pictures they pop up, on adverts, are sort of the centre, the iconic centre of these great cities, but in practice, you might be working, you could be working 40, 50 miles away in China and still be in the same city. Yeah. So, getting on Google Maps and then looking at the travel times during rush hour and things like that, and actually doing that sort of on the ground research, I think is really quite important.
I think also just ask the people that you trust. Find out who's in that country. I mean, I get an awful lot of emails, even people on Twitter that contact me to say, I'm thinking about going to the UAE, I'm thinking about going into China or Asia. What do I need to look out for? And that's absolutely fine. I'm more than happy to help people because it is a big and serious decision. So definitely do tap into the knowledge of people who are there, who are on the ground, who know the landscape. And all contracts are not the same. So every international school has a different contract, and there will be small print. It might be that you think you'll get the normal 6 weeks summer holiday, but some schools only offer you 30 days. You might not get the CPD that you would hope for. Your hours might be different. Medical cover is different for different schools. So making sure you don't pack your suitcase until you've seen the contract, and certainly avoid any school that says, "Oh, you'll sign the contract on arrival." Make sure you've had a good look at that. But salaries are high. It's compelling. You can almost double your salary. That said, though, there's not usually a pension. There's not unions, so you are, as Mark said, you're better off being in a school that does have an accreditation. And if you can, make contact with current staff who are in the country or in that particular school. Usually there are Facebook groups, people on Twitter, and they're more than happy to give you the lowdown on what it's like working in the school they're in.
There's a supplementary to that question. We're seeing the corporations who own many international schools around the world, they're becoming more prominent, they're probably more powerful. Is there an advantage for a teacher to work for one of these big corporations as against the single ownership school, do you think, or not?
I think there are real pros and cons. I think that increasingly the big groups tend to only promote within, or will certainly look to promote within. And so there's an advantage of getting into those groups at an early stage. It's very difficult to get a sort of deputy headship or a headship in those groups from outside, because they tend to develop and bring on their own talent and move it around the world. And we've seen that with a lot of the big groups operating in that way. But then the other side of that is that the freestanding schools, your sort of Kellett's, your Tanglins, your Alice Smiths, and so on, these sorts of schools, effectively operate in a very similar way. That they have alliances between us. We are all independent of each other, but we all talk, and there is quite a bit of movement between our schools, and along those lines.
I've worked in both contexts. I've been in a small school and I've worked as part of a group. And the advantages to both. One thing I really liked about working for one independent group school was that I could get on with things much more quickly. If we wanted to make a change, if we wanted to bring in a new platform, a new infrastructure, that was a simple go to the owners, go to the advisory board, and off we go. But then when you're working for a bigger group, you can't just bring in something else. It has to be a consensus across the group. It has to go through finance within your school, then up to head office. The time lag, of being within a big group can be a bit derailing at times. It takes some of the motivation and enthusiasm away. But that said, a plus point of being part of a big group is the support network. You tap into many more experts. You've got you can moderate across your groups. Moderate your writing with pupils across different groups, intergroup competitions. So the support network is strong.